And you probably want to stick around because there seems to be a surprising reason why this might all be happening. It's not just the surface stuff.
Okay, so where do we first see these problems? I mean, really see them. Surprisingly, it sounds like it was right there in the big demo.
The WWDC one.
Yeah. The reports we're seeing suggest something pretty startling. The actual Siri R&D team. They apparently hadn't even seen working versions of those features they showed off.
Seriously. So what was demoed then?
Mostly the UI, apparently. Lots of animations to make it look real, like a conference special edition, as one source put it.
Wow, okay.
Which begs the question, right? Why would Apple rush out something that sounds almost like a concept video? What's the pressure there?
Well, I think that connects directly back to Siri's whole history, which has always been, let's say, complicated.
Complicated how? It wasn't an Apple original, right?
Exactly. It was bought, an acquisition. Now, Steve Jobs, he reportedly saw Siri as, like, the future, the key to conversational AI.
But he passed away right after it launched.
The very next day.
Yeah.
And with him gone, Siri lost its champion, its clear vision. Post-Jobs, it just sort of drifted.
Drifted how? Like slow updates.
Slow updates, yeah. Key people left the original founders.
Yeah.
And remember that weird attempt to make it an AI search engine through Spotlight?
Oh, yeah, I vaguely remember that. Didn't really take off.
No, and Jobs apparently wasn't even interested in search. The whole thing kind of lost direction. We found this quote from an employee describing Siri internally as, get this, a tool that dogs don't use.
Ouch. Dogs don't use?
Yeah.
That's pretty harsh. But it says a lot about how it was seen inside Apple, doesn't it?
It really does. And that internal view, that sort of neglect, paradoxically set the stage for the next chapter.
Because Amazon came along with Alexa.
Exactly. Alexa spooked them. It forced Apple to re-engage, right? They hired John Giannandrea, set up a proper AI division.
Okay, so trying to catch up. But the sources suggest this created a whole new problem.
A massive one. Because now Siri effectively had two bosses, two parents, if you like. You had Giannandrea's AI department building the models, the core tech. And then you had this software department under Craig Federighi needing to actually integrate it into iOS, into the products people use.
And they weren't getting along.
Not according to these reports, not at all. You had this fundamental conflict. Giannandrea, coming from Google, favored a slower, more research-focused, deliberate approach to AI. Build the foundations right.
Okay, sounds reasonable on paper.
But Apple felt like it was falling behind, right? They needed results now. And Federighi, apparently inspired by things like ChatGPT, was pushing hard for large language models, LLMs. He even started his own team to work on them.
Well, Giannandrea wasn't a fan.
Reportedly, he was an LLM hater back then. Welcome back to Sip and Talk. I'm Joe.
And I'm Sunny. So glad you're here with us.
Today, we're sipping on some interesting insights about a company we all probably have in our pockets, Apple. Specifically, we're diving into something that's been buzzing around the tech world. Why does it feel like Apple's AI, and especially Siri, is, well, kind of stalling?
Yeah.
And is making Siri smarter really that hard?
Yeah, it's a question a lot of us are asking, right? Especially after all the hype around AI recently. We've been looking at a bunch of what's out there online. You know, tech articles, YouTube discussions, trying to get to the bottom of this.
And we'll also chat a bit about how to sort through all that noise online. Because everyone has an opinion, whether it's tech, money, even global events. How do you figure out what's real?
Exactly. Critical thinking in the digital age.
Okay, let's unpack this first part. The online chatter. The internet is a wild place, right?
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to Apple AI, what have people been saying? What's the vibe out there?
It's a real mix, but a lot of the online does, especially from like popular YouTube channels and articles, paints a pretty dramatic picture.
Okay.
You see these headlines just screaming about delays, about how Siri is so bad, even a dog wouldn't use it. That was a memorable one.
Ouch.
Yeah. And even claims that the AI demos at Apple's big conference, WWDC, were just conference special versions, like not actually working properly yet.
Right, like smoke and mirrors almost.
Yeah.
I saw stuff about features being pushed way back, like maybe to iOS 18.6 in mainland China.
That's one rumor floating around.
Or even the big Super Siri everyone's waiting for being delayed until, spring 2026? That's a long time.
It is. And you mentioned some fans overseas were apparently so frustrated they were considering a class action lawsuit. That shows the level of expectation and maybe disappointment.
Wow. Okay. And what about inside Apple? Any gossip there?
Exactly. There's also that chatter about internal conflicts, like a supposed showdown between the AI department and the software team. It really paints this picture of internal strife, which is, kind of juicy because Apple is usually so tight-lipped.
Right. They project that unified front. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me. Why do these kinds of stories, often sensational, maybe exaggerated, get so much traction?
Yeah.
Even from channels or sites with huge followings. And it's not just tech, is it?
No, not at all. It's everywhere. Think about, investment advice online.
Oh, boy.
You see channels promising guaranteed high returns or these get-rich-quick schemes.
Yeah.
Stuff like Bitcoin will hit $100,000 or this stock is guaranteed to double.
Right, with very little actual data behind it sometimes, just big claims.
Exactly. Very clickbaity titles. They often lack real substance.
Yeah, I remember seeing some financial channels back in June 2025 really hyping the impact of former President Trump's tariffs, saying the market would crash. Total chaos predicted.
And then what happened?
Well, other reports showed the market reacted pretty mildly, actually, because companies had kind of seen it coming, adjusted their supply chains already.
Exactly. The big crash didn't happen. Or think about international news. Some channels were pushing narratives about the Iran-Israel conflict becoming World War III or some kind of annihilation prophecy.
Whoa.
Yeah, even though there wasn't really any clear religious text or, solid geopolitical analysis backing those extreme claims up.
So it's just about getting attention. Getting clicks.
It's all about attracting clicks and views. It really is.
So what drives this? What's the engine behind it?
Well, a lot of it comes down to what people call the traffic economy.
Okay.
Platforms like YouTube, they favor content with high engagement. That means clicks, watch time, shares.
Makes sense.
And sensational headlines, really dramatic stories, they just get more clicks, they get people watching longer, sharing more, and that translates directly into ad revenue for the creators and the platform.
So drama pays.
Basically, yeah. Like those negative tech reports we talked about, apparently they can get 30 to 50% more clicks than positive ones.
Wow. Okay, so negativity sells.
It often does. And, it's also about us, the audience. We're kind of naturally curious about insider secrets or crises. It grabs our attention.
Sure.
And in this age of just constant information overload, these really dramatic narratives, they stand out. They simplify really complex issues. It's easier to believe, say, Siri is a mess because Steve Jobs isn't around anymore.
Right. The simple explanation.
And to really dig into the super intricate technical challenges or the internal company politics.
Yeah, the messy reality is harder to digest.
And let's be honest, there's not always enough regulation or fact-checking happening on these platforms. Plus, creators feel this pressure to publish fast, get the story out first.
Right, speed over accuracy sometimes.
Exactly. So accuracy can kind of take a backseat.
So what are the consequences then? All this hype, this potential misinformation, what does it actually do?
Yeah, this is a really important question. What does this all mean for us, for you listening? It can lead to really bad decisions, especially in investing.
Like GameStop.
Exactly. Remember the GameStop craze back in 2021? People lost a lot of money following that online hype, just jumping on the bandwagon without really understanding.
Yeah, it was wild.
And beyond money, it can create cognitive biases, right? It reinforces what we already think. It can deepen societal polarization. And ultimately, it just erodes trust in all media.
That's a scary thought.
It is. If you're constantly seeing inaccurate stuff on social media, you start to doubt everything, even reliable sources. It gets harder to know what's true.
Okay, so given this digital jungle, how do we navigate it? How can we spot the real info, the truth, among all the noise, especially with something like Apple AI?
It really comes down to being a smart information consumer, a critical thinker. First step, always verify your sources.
Okay, how?
Well, instead of just relying on one YouTube channel, especially if it feels really sensational, check mainstream news outlets. Think Reuters, Bloomberg, Associated Press. Or for company stuff, go to the official source, like Apple's own WWDC announcements or press releases.
Don't just take that flashy headline at face value.
Exactly. If an article screams, Siri is a total failure, or tariffs will cause economic collapse, look for the evidence. Is there data? Are there official statements? Are multiple reliable places reporting the same thing?
Look for the backup.
Yeah. If it's all based on vague insider tips or anonymous sources with no other proof, be skeptical. really skeptical.
And compare different angles,
Yeah.
right? If one place is super negative.
Check what another, maybe more balanced outlet is saying, like with international news, looking at sources maybe like the BBC or Al Jazeera can help balance out potentially biased reporting from somewhere else, get the different perspectives.
Good point. And you got to watch out for emotional manipulation too, right?
Absolutely crucial. Be wary of that. If a piece of content is really trying to pull on your heartstrings with nostalgia, like, oh, if only Steve Jobs were here.
Yeah, you see that a lot with Apple.
Or if it's trying to make you afraid, fear of war, fear of economic crisis, or appeal to your greed, like those get-rich-quick things.
Mm-hmm.
Those are often huge red flags. They signal exaggeration is likely happening. They want a reaction, not necessarily to inform you accurately.
Got it. So it's about being critical, checking sources, looking for evidence, comparing viewpoints, and watching out for emotional triggers.
Ideally, yeah. And, content creators should be more transparent, try to balance their reporting, avoid the super hyped up language. And platforms need to do better with reviews and promoting actual authoritative content.
But until then?
Until then, it's really up to us. Be critical thinkers.
Okay, so let's bring this back to Apple AI. We've talked about the online drama, the hype. What are the real reasons, based on what we've looked at, that Apple Intelligence and this Super Siri upgrade aren't fully out yet? What's actually going on?
Right. If we try to connect the dots beyond the noise, it seems to boil down to several key factors. First, and maybe biggest, is Apple's own incredibly strict internal standards.
For quality.
For quality, yes. But especially for privacy and stability, Apple Intelligence really emphasizes on-device processing.
Meaning it runs on your phone, not in the cloud mostly.
Exactly. The AI models run locally on your device, and that is technically really complex. It takes a lot more engineering effort to make that work well, securely, without draining your battery.
Okay.
So this intense focus on quality and user privacy, it just slows down development. It has to. And yeah, some of those advanced Siri features are apparently pushed to spring 2026, needing iOS 18.4 or later. They'd rather be slow and right than fast and buggy.
That makes sense for Apple's brand. Quality first. But what about the international side? You mentioned China earlier.
Great point. That's another huge factor. There are significant challenges in the Chinese market. China has very strict regulations on generative AI. Really strict.
Okay.
And that seems to have stalled Apple's negotiations with local suppliers, like Baidu maybe, who they might need to partner with to offer those features legally in China.
So it's not just tech, it's regulations and partnerships.
Exactly. So the features for the China version, delayed, no clear launch date yet, and China is a massive market for Apple.
Yeah, critical market. Okay, and then there was the internal stuff we touched on, the friction.
Yes, internal priority conflicts seem to be a big one too. Look, the iPhone ecosystem is still Apple's core business, right? That's where the money is.
Undeniably.
So AI development, it needs to be deeply integrated with iOS. It can't just be a separate thing. And that means resources engineers, budget, attention are heavily focused on the phone business, which can naturally impact how fast the AI stuff progresses.
Right. The iPhone gets first dibs.
Pretty much. And what's fascinating here is this idea that after Steve Jobs, Siri kind of lost its clear direction. It got caught between two internal groups.
The parents you mentioned.
Yeah, like the AI department focused on the underlying models and research, and the software department focused on building features into iOS. And they didn't always agree.
Okay, so what was the disagreement?
Well, it sounds like the AI leadership maybe saw AI as the slow, long-term R&D climb. A marathon, but that clashed with Apple's need or desire for quicker results, to show progress, keep up appearances in the AI race. Meanwhile, the software team was maybe more eager to jump on large language models, build cool new stuff now.
And the AI team was more cautious.
Possibly skeptical, yeah. Felt the tech wasn't ready for prime time, maybe. And this apparently created some distrust. Teams supposedly keeping evidence in case things went wrong.
Whoa, like internal CYA?
Kind of sounds like it. And it might have even affected other projects, like Vision Pro. There were reports an AI team wouldn't help the software team on voice control stuff for it.
Next time on the smooth Apple machine, we imagine.
Well, it's a huge company, right? Internal politics happen. And finally, there's just the sheer competitive pressure.
Right. OpenAI, Google, everyone's making big moves.
Exactly. Apple needed to show something impressive at WWDC in 2024. They had to respond.
But they didn't want to release something half-baked.
Precisely. To avoid launching immature features that could really damage their brand, their reputation for things just working, they're choosing to delay the full rollout.
Okay.
And honestly, the technical challenges are immense. integrating these huge language models effectively, getting Siri to truly understand personal context, like what Super Siri promises, it's incredibly difficult. And apparently, they just haven't met Apple's own high-quality standards yet. Remember, even the Siri team lead reportedly admitted that almost a third of the features they demoed at WWDC still aren't fully working right.
Wow. Okay. So summing it all up then, Apple AI's delays are mainly because of their own super high standards for privacy and stability, regulatory hurdles, especially in China, internal resource fights, and maybe conflicting priorities, especially around Siri's direction, competitive pressure forcing their hand, but also making them cautious. And just the massive technical difficulty of doing AI the Apple way.
That seems to cover the main points, yeah. Ultimately, Siri became a bit of an internal tool, maybe without the clear top-level priority it needed.
So this raises a really interesting question, doesn't it? While AI is clearly the future, for Apple, the iPhone is still king.
Absolutely. It's the engine.
So maybe AI is like the triangle player in the orchestra, necessary, adds something important, but not the lead violin.
That's a good analogy. For now, perhaps. But maybe the bigger issue isn't just the AI delay itself. Maybe it's about Apple's perceived loss of that.
The magic.
The magic to turn these ambitious demos, even ones that might have been a bit exaggerated back then, like the original iPhone demo 15 years ago, into real-world products that people love and that change everything.
The ability to deliver on the hype.
Exactly. Can they still consistently do that with something as complex and fast-moving as AI? That feels like the bigger question looming over them.
What a chat. That really makes you think about all the layers behind the headlines, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Whether it's Apple AI or investing or global news, being a smart consumer of information, really thinking critically is just so key.
It really is. We hope this Sip and Talk helped you peel back some of those layers, maybe get a clearer picture of what might really be going on. It's always about independent thinking.
Definitely. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to Sip and Talk wherever you get your podcasts.
And for more fun, you should definitely check out our good friend Micky's YouTube channel. He's got hilarious memes, great music, cool wine tasting adventures, awesome travel vlogs. Seriously,